There are 14 truths that Marcus Aurelius never intended the world to know. Truths he wrote in the margins of his life, during his darkest hours, when the weight of an empire threatened to crush him. And these truths, hidden in plain sight for nearly 2,000 years, hold the exact blueprint for building a mind that nothing can break. Not failure, not loss, not even the slow erosion of time itself. What you're about to discover isn't just philosophy. It's architecture for the soul. Your mind betrays you every single day. It tells you stories that aren't true. It creates fears that don't exist. It replays moments that are already gone and rehearses futures that will never come. And somewhere in the chaos of all that noise, you've forgotten something crucial. You are not your mind. You are what watches the mind. And that distinction changes everything. Marcus Aurelius understood this in a way that few humans ever have. He was the most powerful man in the known world, yet he felt powerless. He commanded armies, yet he couldn't command his own thoughts. He had access to every luxury imaginable, yet he struggled with the same inner turmoil you struggle with right now. The anxiety, the doubt, the relentless questioning of whether you're enough, whether you're doing enough, whether any of it even matters. But unlike most people who drown in these questions, Marcus found answers. Not comfortable answers, not easy answers, but true answers. And he distilled these answers into teachings so potent, so transformative, that they've survived millennia. Yet most of them have been forgotten, buried beneath the more popular quotes, overlooked by people searching for quick fixes instead of lasting transformation. Today we're excavating those forgotten teachings, all 14 of them, and by the time we're done, you'll have a map for building a mind that remains steady when everything around you falls apart, a mind that sees clearly when others panic, a mind that finds peace not by avoiding chaos, but by standing in the center of it, unmoved. Before we dive into these teachings, I need to ask something of you. If what you hear today resonates with something deep inside you, something that's been waiting to be remembered, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together. Leave a comment telling me which of the 14 teachings transforms you the most. And if someone in your life needs to hear this, someone who's struggling with their own mind, share this with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is show others they're not alone in the battle. Now let's begin the transformation. The first forgotten teaching is the hardest one to accept, and it's this. Your suffering is optional, but your pain is not. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain, and in doing so, they create infinite suffering. But Marcus discovered something radical in the heart of his own agony. He discovered that pain is just sensation. Suffering is the story you tell about that sensation. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you step on a thorn. The thorn pierces your foot. There's immediate pain, sharp and undeniable. That pain is real. That pain is information. Your body is telling you something is wrong, and you need to address it. But then something else happens. Your mind begins to speak. It says, "Why does this always happen to me? I should have been more careful. Now my whole day is ruined. This is just like that other time when everything went wrong." And suddenly that single moment of pain has expanded into a story of suffering that colors your entire experience. This is what Marcus meant when he wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. The thorn is the pain, the story is the suffering, and you have complete control over the story. But here's what makes this teaching forgotten. We've been conditioned to believe that our thoughts are facts, that if we think something, it must be true. If we feel something, it must be valid. But Marcus is showing you a different truth. Your thoughts are just events in consciousness. They arise, they exist for a moment, they pass, and you get to choose which ones you believe, which ones you invest in, which ones you allow to shape your reality. Think about the last time someone criticized you. The words themselves were just vibrations in air, symbols arranged in a particular order. But your mind took those symbols and turned them into a weapon. It said, "They're right. You're not good enough. You've always been not good enough. Everyone can see it." And in that moment, you weren't suffering from the criticism. You were suffering from your agreement with it. The second forgotten teaching builds directly on this. You are not obligated to have an opinion about everything that happens to you. Marcus wrote this in a moment of profound clarity, and it's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever encounter. Every single day, thousands of things happen in your field of awareness. Most of them are completely neutral, but your mind has been trained to judge, to label, to categorize, to have an immediate opinion about everything. This is good. This is bad. This is fair. This is unfair. This is what I wanted. This is what I feared. But what if you just didn't? What if you let events be events? What if you saved your mental energy for the few things that actually require your judgment and let everything else pass through you like water through a net? There's a story about Marcus that illustrates this perfectly. During one of his military campaigns, a messenger arrived with news that one of his most trusted generals had betrayed him, spreading lies and turning allies against him. Everyone expected Marcus to rage, to punish, to retaliate. But instead, he sat quietly for a long moment, and then he said simply, "People will be what they are. My job is not to control them. My job is to remain who I am." He didn't make the betrayal mean something about himself. He didn't create a story about injustice or victimhood. He simply acknowledged the reality and chose not to add suffering to it. This is the power of refusing to have an opinion about everything. This is the foundation of an unshakable mind. The third forgotten teaching is perhaps the most challenging. The obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is the way. You've heard versions of this before, but you probably haven't understood what Marcus really meant. He wasn't saying that obstacles are good because they make you stronger. He wasn't giving you a motivational platitude. He was revealing something much deeper about the nature of growth and transformation. Every single thing you want, every version of yourself you're trying to become, exists on the other side of resistance. And that resistance shows up as obstacles. The obstacle is literally showing you where you need to go. It's marking the path. When you encounter something difficult, something that triggers fear or doubt or the impulse to quit, that's not a sign you're on the wrong path. That's confirmation you're on exactly the right one. Marcus faced this constantly. As emperor, every day brought impossible decisions, moral dilemmas, situations with no clear right answer. He could have seen these as burdens, as proof that the universe was against him. But instead, he saw them as his training ground. Each obstacle was an opportunity to practice virtue, to strengthen his character, to become more of who he truly was. And here's the key. If you're waiting for life to get easier before you become who you're meant to be, you're going to wait forever. Life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. Your mind gets clearer. Your capacity expands. But the challenges never stop coming. So the question isn't how to avoid obstacles. The question is, who are you becoming as you move through them? Now we move into the architecture of thought itself. The fourth forgotten teaching is this. You become what you repeatedly think about, not what you occasionally think about, not what you wish you thought about, what you actually, consistently, habitually focus on. Your attention is the brush that paints your reality, and most people are painting chaos without even realizing it. Marcus was obsessed with this concept. He understood that as emperor, he couldn't control the wars, the plagues, the political machinations around him, but he could control where he placed his attention. And he knew that if he spent his days focusing on betrayal, on injustice, on all the ways people disappointed him, he would become bitter and broken. So instead, he made a deliberate choice to focus on virtue, on wisdom, on the aspects of life that elevated rather than degraded. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quality of your circumstances, not the quality of other people, the quality of your thoughts." This means that right now, in this very moment, you have the power to shift your entire experience simply by choosing where to direct your attention. But here's where most people fail. They think changing their thoughts means forcing positive thinking. They try to paste happy thoughts over painful feelings. They tell themselves everything is fine when it clearly isn't. And this creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. a mental split that actually increases suffering. What Marcus is teaching is different. He's not telling you to think positive. He's telling you to think accurately, to see things as they actually are, not as your fears and desires paint them. When you think accurately, you naturally feel better, because you're no longer at war with reality. You're in alignment with it. The fifth forgotten teaching reveals how to do this. Separate the facts from the story. In any situation that causes you distress, there are facts, and there is the narrative you're creating about those facts. The facts are neutral. The narrative is what creates emotion. And if you can learn to separate the two, you gain incredible power. Let's say you send a message to someone and they don't respond for several hours. That's the fact. They didn't respond. But your mind immediately creates a story. They're ignoring me. They're angry. They don't care about me. I said something wrong. This relationship is falling apart. And that story creates anxiety, insecurity, suffering. But none of that story is factual. It's all projection, interpretation, imagination. Marcus practiced this constantly. When something upset him, he would stop and ask, what actually happened? Not what I think it means. Not what I'm afraid it means. What actually, verifiably happened. And almost always, the actual event was far less threatening than his mind had made it. The suffering was in the story, not the facts. This leads directly to the sixth forgotten teaching. Most of what you fear will never happen, and the things that do happen are rarely as bad as you imagined. Your mind is designed to protect you, which means it's constantly scanning for threats, anticipating danger, preparing for worst-case scenarios. This was useful when threats were physical and immediate. But in the modern world, your mind is applying this same mechanism to social situations, future possibilities, and abstract concepts. And it's torturing you in the process. Marcus dealt with real threats, invasions, assassinations, betrayals, plagues, and yet he wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. A man facing actual death, actual war, actual loss, recognized that the imagined version of suffering is worse than the real thing. Because when something actually happens, you deal with it. You adapt. You find strength you didn't know you had. But when you're imagining something might happen, there's no resolution, just endless rehearsal of catastrophe. How much of your life have you wasted worrying about things that never occurred? How much energy have you burned preparing for disasters that never came? And even in the cases where something difficult did happen, how often did you discover you were capable of handling it? That you were stronger than you thought? That you found a way through? The seventh forgotten teaching asks you to internalize this. You have survived 100% of your worst days so far. Every single thing you thought would destroy you didn't. You're still here. You're still capable. You're still growing. And this track record is evidence that whatever comes next, you'll handle that too. Maybe not gracefully, maybe not perfectly, but you'll handle it. Because you always have. We arrive now at the teachings that transform everything. The eighth forgotten teaching is the most counterintuitive. The way to gain control is to give it up. This sounds like a paradox, but it's the secret that Marcus lived by, and it's the key to unshakable peace. You've been taught that control equals safety, that if you can just manage every variable, predict every outcome, prevent every disaster, then finally you'll feel secure. But this is a lie. Because the nature of life is uncertainty. The nature of existence is change. And when you try to control the uncontrollable, you don't create safety. You create chronic anxiety. Marcus wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There's never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control." This isn't resignation. This isn't passivity. This is the ultimate power move. You're choosing to invest your energy only where it can actually make a difference. Everything else you let go. Imagine you're holding a rope, and on the other end of that rope is something you desperately want to control. Another person's behavior maybe, or a situation at work, or the past, or the future, and you're pulling on that rope with everything you have, muscles straining, exhausted from the effort. But the thing on the other end isn't moving. It's not responding to your pull. So you pull harder, you grip tighter, you refuse to let go because letting go feels like failure. But here's the truth Marcus discovered. The rope isn't attached to anything on the other end. You're not in a tug of war. You're just holding tension that serves no purpose. And the moment you drop the rope, the moment you stop trying to control what was never yours to control, all that energy becomes available for something else, for presence, for peace, for the things you actually can influence. The ninth forgotten teaching shows you what to do with that energy. Focus ruthlessly on your character, not your reputation. Your reputation is what other people think of you. Your character is who you actually are, and Marcus understood that one of these things is completely outside your control, while the other is the only thing you can truly shape. Most people spend their entire lives managing their reputation, crafting an image, performing for an audience, trying to control how others perceive them. And it's exhausting because you can never fully control it. You can be kind, and someone will call you weak. You can be strong, and someone will call you harsh. You can be successful, and someone will say you don't deserve it. There's no winning. There's no final arrival where everyone approves of you. But your character? That's different. Your character is the private choices you make when no one is watching, the integrity you maintain even when it costs you, the values you honor even when it would be easier not to. And when you focus on character instead of reputation, something miraculous happens. You stop needing external validation. You stop being controlled by other people's opinions. You become internally referenced instead of externally driven. Marcus was emperor, which meant his reputation mattered politically. And yet he wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." He saw the insanity of it. The way people betray their own values, their own truth, their own knowing, just to earn approval from people they don't even respect. The 10th forgotten teaching is where this gets practical. Treat every person as if they are doing the best they can with what they know. This doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior. It doesn't mean you allow people to mistreat you. It means you recognize that everyone is operating from their own level of consciousness, their own wounds, their own limitations. And when you see people this way, you stop taking things personally. You stop creating stories about why they're targeting you specifically. You see their behavior as a reflection of them, not a statement about you. Marcus dealt with betrayal, incompetence, and cruelty regularly, and his response was always grounded in this teaching. He would say to himself, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. Not because they're bad people, because they don't know better. And when you see it that way, you can maintain your peace while still protecting your boundaries." Now we enter the teachings that Marcus was most obsessed with. The 11th forgotten teaching cuts to the heart of human existence. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This is memento mori, the practice of remembering death, and it's the teaching that gave Marcus both urgency and peace. You are going to die. Not someday in some distant, abstract future. Actually die. Your heart will stop. Your breath will cease. And everything you worried about, everything you put off, everything you didn't say because you were too afraid, will no longer matter. Not because death makes life meaningless, but because death makes life precious. It strips away everything that doesn't matter and reveals what does. Marcus wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." This is one of the most powerful reframes you can make. Imagine you actually died yesterday. Imagine your life ended and then, by some miracle, you were given today as a gift. This single day. How would you live it differently? Would you waste it scrolling mindlessly? Would you spend it resenting people who aren't thinking about you anyway? Would you hold back your truth because you're afraid of judgment? No. You'd live with presence, with gratitude, with courage, because you'd know this is borrowed time. But here's the secret. It's always borrowed time. Every moment is borrowed. You just forget. The 12th forgotten teaching takes this further. The longest life and the shortest life end at the same place. Marcus understood that whether you live 20 years or 100 years, eventually, you arrive at the same destination. So the question isn't how long you live. The question is how well you live. Whether you're present for your life or absent from it. Whether you're growing or stagnating. Whether you're connected to what matters or distracted by what doesn't. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." This is the real tragedy. Not that life ends, but that so many people never truly begin. They spend their entire existence in preparation mode, in someday mode, in when things settle down mode. And then life is over, and they realize they spent their whole journey waiting for the destination. You don't have infinite time. You don't have endless chances. You have now, and now is asking you, what will you do with it? Who will you be in it? What matters enough to focus on while everything else fades into insignificance? The 13th forgotten teaching is where Marcus became most vulnerable. The universe is change. Life is opinion. Everything is impermanent. Nothing stays. Not your youth. Not your health. Not your relationships. Not your victories. Not even your suffering. Everything is in constant motion, constantly transforming, constantly becoming something else. And your pain comes from trying to make permanent what was always meant to be temporary. Think about all the things you've desperately tried to hold on to. A relationship that was ending, a version of yourself that you'd outgrown, a circumstance that was changing. And think about the suffering that came from your resistance to that change, all the energy you spent trying to freeze time, trying to keep things exactly as they were, trying to prevent the inevitable. Marcus faced this with his children. He lost several of them, and the grief was real, profound, devastating. But he didn't let that grief turn into bitterness. He didn't blame the universe or rage against fate. He accepted that life includes loss, that love includes grief, that having something precious means one day losing it, and he chose to be grateful for what he had while he had it, rather than bitter about what he lost when it was gone. This is the practice of impermanence, not to make you depressed, but to make you present. When you know this conversation might be your last with someone, you listen differently. When you know this moment will never come again, you experience it fully. When you know everything is temporary, you stop waiting for the perfect time to start living. Because there is no perfect time. There's only now. And now is already perfect not because it's comfortable, but because it's real. We arrive at the final teaching, the 14th forgotten truth that ties everything together. Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one. This is the teaching that transforms philosophy from theory into life. Because all the wisdom in the world means nothing if you don't embody it. All the understanding means nothing if you don't practice it. Marcus didn't just write about virtue. He lived it. In every decision, in every interaction, in every moment of pressure, he asked himself, what would the best version of me do right now? And then he did that. Not perfectly, not always successfully, but consistently, reliably, with integrity. And you can do the same. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Start with the morning practice. Before you even get out of bed, take 3 minutes to prepare your mind. Say to yourself, today I will face difficulties. Things will not go as planned. People will be frustrating. And I choose in advance to remain steady. I choose to respond from wisdom instead of reaction. I choose to be who I want to be regardless of what happens around me. This isn't positive thinking. This is mental preparation. This is you deciding who you'll be before the challenges arrive, so that when they do arrive, you're not caught off guard. You're ready. Throughout the day, practice the pause. When something triggers you, when you feel anger or fear or judgment rising, stop. Just for 3 seconds, take a breath, and ask, is my reaction right now creating the life I want? Is it moving me toward who I want to be? Or is it just reaction, just old programming, just unconscious habit? Most of the time, that pause is enough. Enough space for wisdom to enter. Enough distance for you to choose differently. Enough awareness for you to remember who you actually are beneath the reaction. In the evening, practice the review. Take 5 minutes before sleep to reflect on your day. Not to judge yourself harshly, not to create shame, but to learn. Ask yourself, where was I today? Where did I show up as my highest self? Where did I fall back into old patterns? What can I learn from this? And here's the crucial part. Answer with compassion. Talk to yourself the way you talk to someone you deeply love who's trying their best. Because you are trying your best. And even when you fall short, even when you mess up, even when you disappoint yourself, you're still worthy. You're still growing. You're still becoming. Marcus practiced all of this daily. In the midst of war. In the midst of political chaos. In the midst of personal tragedy. And if he could do it then, you can do it now. Practice the discipline of perception. Train yourself to see things as they are, not as your fears paint them. When something happens, stop and separate fact from interpretation. What actually occurred? What story am I adding? Is that story true? Is it useful? Does it serve who I'm becoming? Practice the discipline of action. Do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. And every time you cross that bridge, you make the journey a little easier. Practice the discipline of will. Accept what you cannot change. Release what you cannot control. Focus only on what's actually yours to focus on. Your thoughts, your choices, your character, your response. Everything else, let it be. And finally, practice amor fati. Love everything that happens. Not in a naive way. Not in a way that pretends pain isn't real. But in a way that recognizes that everything, even the hard things, especially the hard things, are shaping you into who you're meant to become. The obstacle is the way. The challenge is the teacher. The suffering is the doorway to depth. Marcus wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. You are that fire, and everything life throws at you is fuel. It either destroys you or transforms you, and you get to choose which." I want you to feel something right now. Not think about it, feel it. You are standing at a crossroads. You've always been standing at this crossroads, but maybe you've never seen it clearly until now. One path leads to the life you've been living, the unconscious one, the reactive one, the one where your mind controls you instead of you controlling your mind, the one where you're a passenger in your own existence, watching your life unfold as if it's happening to someone else. The other path leads somewhere different. Somewhere harder, yes, but also somewhere true. It's the path Marcus walked. The path of awareness, of presence, of becoming the person you'd respect. Not perfect, not invincible, but conscious, deliberate, alive in a way you've never been before. And here's what I need you to understand. You don't get to walk both paths. You don't get to be half-conscious. You don't get to know these teachings and then pretend you don't know them. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can only choose whether to live it or betray it. Marcus never wanted to be emperor. He never asked for the responsibility. He never wanted the burden. But when it came to him, he didn't run. He didn't pretend he wasn't capable. He rose to meet it. Not because he felt ready, but because it was his to do. And whatever you're facing right now, whatever challenge is in front of you, whatever transformation is calling you, that's yours to do. Not because you feel ready, not because you know how, but because it's yours. And running from it doesn't make it go away. It just makes you smaller. These 14 teachings aren't philosophy. They're not theory. They're the blueprint for a life that actually works. A mind that remains steady when everything else shakes. A heart that stays open even when it hurts. A soul that grows through what it goes through instead of being diminished by it. Marcus is reaching across 2,000 years to tell you something. You are capable of this. You are worthy of this. You are ready for this. Not because you're special, but because you're human. And this is what humans can do when they remember who they are beneath all the fear and conditioning. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your circumstances. You are the awareness that experiences all of those things. And that awareness is unbreakable, untouchable, eternal. Nothing can take that from you. Not failure, not loss, not judgment, not even death. Because the deepest part of you was never born and will never die. It just is. And when you connect with that part, even for a moment, everything changes. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but it loses its power. The pain doesn't vanish, but it stops defining you. The world doesn't become easier, but you become capable. And that's all you ever needed. Not an easier life, just a stronger you. So here we stand, 14 forgotten teachings, 14 keys to an unshakable mind, 14 truths that Marcus Aurelius discovered in the depths of his own struggle and left for you to find in yours. You don't need to master all of them today. You don't need to become perfect tomorrow. You just need to start. Choose one teaching, the one that resonated most, the one that made something inside you wake up, and practice it. Today. Right now. In the next decision you make. In the next thought you choose to believe or release. In the next moment of presence or reaction. That's all transformation ever is. A series of small choices. Repeated consistently. Until one day you look back and realize you're not the same person you were. You're not controlled by the same fears. You're not limited by the same beliefs. You're not living the same unconscious life. You've become someone who can handle what comes. Someone who remains steady in the storm. Someone who knows who they are beneath everything else. Someone with an unshakable mind. Marcus never got to see how his words would echo through history. He never knew that 2,000 years later, someone just like you would be searching for the same truths he was searching for. Struggling with the same mind he was struggling with. Reaching for the same peace he fought so hard to find. But he knew this. If he could do it, anyone could. If he could transform his mind in the middle of war and plague and betrayal and loss, then you can transform yours in the middle of whatever you're facing. Because the human spirit is resilient. The human mind is trainable. The human heart is unbreakable when you remember what it's made of. Thank you for taking this journey with me, for having the courage to look at these truths, for being willing to do the work. If this transformed something in you, let me know in the comments. Tell me which of the 14 teachings you're going to practice first. And remember, you are not alone in this. We're all walking this path together, trying to remember what Marcus already knew. Stay steady, stay conscious, stay true, and build that unshakable mind, one choice at a time.